This is our first show Between Two Homes. I'm Josh Barnard, and I'm super excited to kind of start putting this on with just an interview series to kind of get definitions and understandings more of just items within the real estate community. So our very first guest, Lisa Schultz with Chicago Title, and we're going to kind of get into the title aspects today. But first, welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for letting me be your first.
Yeah, no problem. So I've known you for just over 15 years now. You were the very first person that I met when I got into real estate. And so first, thank you for just kind of supporting and sticking with me this whole time. I know,
it's a pleasure.
I'm not always the easiest person to work with sometimes.
Yes, you are. He's easy.
Well, how long have you been in real estate, just the industry itself?
Wow, so I've been in 35 years.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Scary.
not all in title.
No, I actually was an active producing agent as well.
Okay. So you sold homes, listed homes. What brought you over to the title side of things?
So what brought me over, great question. I wanted to dip my toe in it. I had just done 7 years as a real estate agent in this state. My family was in the 3 generations in real estate.
Okay.
So finance, development, real estate. It's an amazing opportunity to stay in this space. And long story short, I got into title and found it exciting, interesting, helpful, and I've just been doing it. Every year I go, do I want to do it? Yes, I do.
Well, that's always, it's easier to go to work when you're enjoying it, huh? I mean,
Absolutely.
It makes it good. So, well, let's talk a little bit about title. What is title? What's title of a property? What does that mean?
Great question. So title to the property is the paper ownership of a property that's recorded. So if I sell my property, a piece of paper is recorded in the county that says I sold it to this person. So that is ownership of the property.
So without that piece of paper, you don't own the property or the house.
Well, you may own it, but somebody else can come by and say, hey, by the way, I own it, or they own it, or and that's what we used to have, the old land claims in the 1880s when they came out here before we were a state.
Okay, so that piece of paper, it's pretty important.
It's pretty important.
Okay. So there's an insurance that comes along with title.
Yes.
What is title insurance? What does that mean?
Oh, great. So title insurance is not required on property. Some people, that's a myth. Some people think it is.
Right.
It's not required. Highly recommended though.
Sure.
So just like insurance, auto insurance or home insurance, right? We pay to be protected. What's a little bit different about title insurance is an insurance policy that protects from the past, things that may have happened that weren't disclosed or people didn't know about.
Okay.
Versus auto and home is future events. I may hit something, I want to be insured.
Right.
Something may get broken into in my house, I want to be insured. Title insurance looks at the past.
Okay, so that's where I guess the confusion could come in, is we think of insurance like auto, where it's if something does happen, and you're saying that this is all past, covering you from the past. So in your mind, you kind of go one way, one direction, but we're going backwards. So that's very good to know.
Yeah. Do you want a story?
That would be
An
great.
example?
Yeah. Let's hear that.
So here is a situation, happens. Man passes away, his wife and kids want to sell the property.
Okay.
They sell the property, and then a month and a half later, the new owners are served with papers from a person with the same last name stating, I was a legitimate heir and I didn't get paid. So instead of the current owner having to go sue the seller, go to court, a lot of time, stress,
Sure, yeah.
money, right? What do they do first when you get served with papers?
Cry
And call the broker.
Oh, yeah.
How did you do that? But after the tears are gone, they call the broker, and then they may want to call an attorney, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's nice about title insurance is they can call the title insurance company, which they did in this case, at which time we had to investigate, have a conversation with the sellers, and negotiate to take care of that. Did the buyers or current owners know anything about it? They knew something was happening, but they weren't involved in that situation. So title insurance gives you peace of mind. It allows you to not worry about going to court to defend your rights of ownership.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, great story. So what is title insurance? What does it cover? I mean, you mentioned a couple things there. Is there a wider, broader span of things that it does cover?
Yeah, these are great questions. So first of all, there's several different types of title insurance. I hear a lot, title insurance is all the same. No, there's different kinds.
Okay.
In fact, there's one called extended, and people think, oh, that must be the best one. Might not be in the case. So to answer your question, there's different types of title insurance. Number one, check with the title company that you're using to see which one fits your plan. The most general one is called homeowners.
Okay.
And homeowners title policies in this state, Washington State, covers things that may be human errors. So just some examples. It may cover fence encroachments. You put your fence on my property.
Right.
Driveways. Hey, my driveway is on my neighbor's property and I need access. It may cover non-conforming uses. Hey, I wanted to put a daycare in my house and now I can't, but I thought I could because of the zoning. Lots of different things, as well as lost heirs, paperwork errors, and that. So you got to check with your title company to make sure what you're concerned about is covered.
Okay, perfect. And there's a spot where people can go to kind of check that out, do the research and that sort of thing?
Yes. We're regulated, so all of us have internet websites, and you can go online, check it out, research that. But my thing is, it's a human business. So contact the title company.
Right.
Tell them your concerns. Tell them what you want covered, and they will tell you the different types of coverage that they have for you.
Okay, that's a good point. I mean, it's relational, and I think that's the biggest thing that sometimes, as we get in this technological world, that we forget sometimes. So that's a great point.
Yeah.
So who actually pays for title insurance? I mean, sometimes I get this question, especially when we're getting to the closing table. Where does that money come from? Who's putting that money out?
Right, not out of the sky, and it's not free. So
right.
It's negotiable. A lot of people don't realize that the buyer can pay for it, the seller can pay for it. If you're tight on funds and you're having a lender, the lender can load it into your loan amount. It's an allowable closing cost for the lender to do that.
Okay.
So there's all sorts of different things. It depends on what your contract says.
Right.
Which tells me to tell you need to be careful with who you're working with. Read those contracts carefully. If you're choosing not to work with a real estate professional, you better understand what coverages and what they're offering, because you may be surprised that there may be a coverage that doesn't have the benefits that you want in your policy, but because it wasn't in your contract, you lost out.
You don't get it covered.
You don't get it covered.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's great. So certain insurances have to be renewed every single year.
Yeah.
Does title insurance, is that something that needs to be renewed?
No.
Year in and year out?
No.
Okay.
So that's great. It's a one-time fee at time of closing, or if you're a homeowner and you're refinancing, your lender is going to want a new title policy, which, if I can just add a second.
Yeah.
If you are a buyer and you have a loan, the lender wants title insurance, and you're normally in your closing costs will pay for the lender to be covered. So I guess my question is title insurance necessary? If a lender wants title insurance as a homeowner, why wouldn't you want title insurance, right?
That coverage is pretty important.
It's pretty important, unless you've got a lot of money and you don't mind going to court and doing that, right?
It's just getting somebody on your behalf. I mean, that's the big thing, is you're a professional, you know what you're doing, you've been through it, and so for somebody that's hasn't been through it, I mean, you take a lot of that pressure, a lot of that stress away when something does actually come up. So that's a huge thing to have in your back pocket.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. So one of the things that we run into actually quite a bit is when we're working with people with common names. John Smith. John Smith wants to sell a house, wants to buy a house, but there's 30 John Smiths, and somehow they're all getting intertwined on this title report. How does that work? What goes on there, and how do you clear that up?
Perfect. So what a title company is, we're little kind of investigators. We get into federal records, county records, state records, and we pull all John Smiths.
Okay.
So we create a title report called a preliminary title when you start your transaction.
Right.
And it gives us all the information on that property, who has access to that property, like, utilities, or who has a mortgage on that property, or who's actually gone to court and has a judgment on that property. So good old John Smith in the state of Washington all get lined out in this title report, and it will say we have numerous matters.
Okay.
When John Smith gets that, John Smith calls Josh and says, what is going on? And they're
Yeah.
freaked out. So what we do is we ask for their middle name, social security number, and then we can isolate the John Smiths who have stuff and the John Smith that doesn't.
Right.
And so that's what we do. And privacy is a huge concern. We know
Right,
that
right.
there's bad people out there doing bad things. So know that when your information is given to a title company, we have policies, privacy policies in place that are highly regulated and required.
Okay. Well, in this day and age, I mean, that's such an important thing. And so, yeah, that's great to know, especially for the consumer to know that they're going to be protected just in that matter.
Yeah.
So, I guess the last question is, are all title companies, are they created equal?
Well, of course not. No. The answer is great news for consumers, for buyers and sellers, is that we are federally regulated and locally regulated. So we have minimum requirements that have to be in an insurance policy. So, but I can offer more than the minimum. And that's what you have to look for. And that's why it's really important as a consumer, if you are concerned about something, go to a title company and tell them your concerns and let them talk about their policies. If you don't like their answer, call another title company.
Right.
How do you resource them? Like I said, go online or contact your real estate broker. They can't push you to a title company. It's 100% your choice, but they work with a lot of them and they've had a lot more experience than we have as consumers. So lean on them for their opinion, but know that you get to choose your own and it's up to your research.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I mean, ultimately, the ball's in the consumer's court, and it's their job not only to take a recommendation, but also to do a little bit of research to make sure that you are comfortable with the scenario and the people that you're getting involved with. So that's great.
Yeah, and it's much better to get in front of a situation than behind a situation.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking of selling, and you're concerned about that neighbor's fence, or you're concerned that, somebody's been using part of my property and I really haven't said anything for years, or geez, I remodeled and I might not have had a permit, it's a really good thing to contact your title company, work with the real estate broker to get these things resolved before, because we've had a lot of closings that we've been like, oops.
Yeah, and that can really extend the timeline of closing, and sometimes it can push it where it's not going to close. So
Right.
if you have those types of questions, it's better to reach out before you actually put the house on the market to make sure these matters are all squared away so that you just get to go through a clean closing.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for coming on, the first guest, and we appreciate your candidness and just your willingness to come out and educate and give answers so that people understand exactly what you do and the industry does with regards to title. So
Thanks for doing the videos. I hope you guys learned something.
yeah, thank you very much. Talk to you soon.
Thanks.